Civil war has broken out in the Morloc system. Sinister elements within the ranks of the Adeptus Mechanicus forces on Morloc Prime have placed false information into the mind of the Iron Priestess, matriarch of House Morloc and sovereign of the system. Believing the Adeptus Astartes of the Sons of Altarion chapter had translated into system with failed gather fields and therefore corrupt hearts, the Iron Priestess sent Chapter Master Sagan and his Void Stalkers to meet them on the edge of the city. The battle was bloody. Sagan was wounded beyond the ability to fight, and the Iron Priestess led the fight in his stead. The Sons of Altarion, believing they had been wrongfully fired upon by allies, pleaded with House Morloc to see reason, but to no avail. The battle was lost, and the Void Stalkers retreated into the city to face the next wave of attack. And so, reinforced by the Adeptus Mechanicus forces of Tech Priest Dominus Balon Alpha, House Morloc and the Void Stalkers prepare for battle once more.
Welcome to Game 2 of Warzone Morloc, taking place in Nottingham, Warhammer World. Second game of Warzone Morloc is going to be a Cities of Death fire sweep mission with the two armies split between two deployment zones. Deployment Zone A in the top left hand corner of your screen and Deployment Zone B, which will be in the bottom right hand corner.
This is the 2nd Company Battalion Detachment of the Sons of Altarion, led by Captain Gregor X, who is wearing a Santic halo and his Gravis armour. He's supported by his 2 lieutenants, Severian and Proxys, wielding a Stalker bolt rifle and power sword respectively. Brother Librarian Tellus provides the psychic support that the battalion so badly needs. Meanwhile, the heavy support comes in the form of Redemptor Dreadnought Destor and Repulsor Tank Archaic. Inceptor Squad Apollos equip with their assault bolters bring death from the skies, while Hellblaster Squad Eclipsis equipped with Plasma Incinerators are the armour killers. There are 3 Inceptor squads. Cerberus and Hades are equipped with their bolt rifles and form the centre of this battalion. Meanwhile, Incest Squad Ceres with Stalker bolt rifles and an auxiliary grenade launcher provide the long-distance support. The Reaver Squad Minervus move silently through the ruins with their grav suits and grapple launchers, while a Vindicator Assassin views the battlefield through the scope of his Exodus rifle, and Aggressor Squad Vulcana move with their flame gauntlets to the ruins.
Adeptus Mechanicus and Marines force Morloc. Warlord Tech Priest Dominus Balon Alpha with Volkite Blaster, Macro Stubber and Omnissiah Axe. 10 Skitari Vanguard with Plasma Caliber and Taser Goad. 2 Castellan robots with heavy phosphor blasters and Castellan fists with a Data Smith. The Night Warden Iron Priestess with heavy Gatling Cannon, Thunderstrike Gauntlet, a Stubber and the Storm Spear Rocket Pod. A Dune Crawler with a Proxied Eradication Beamer. And an Iron Strider with twin Cognis Las Cannon. Onto the Void Stalkers Allied Detachment, led by Lieutenant after the captain was mortally wounded. 5-man Intercessor Squad with bolt rifles. The Repulsor Grav Tank with Las Talon, twin Las Cannons and all the trimmings. And lastly, the 5-man Hellblaster Squad seeking vengeance for their previous destruction.
Iron Priestess to all forces of House Morloc. You are to push into the city centre and secure 6 structures essential to the war effort. The enemy must be given no quarter. Deploy from Zone Bravo, the Magistrates building, and press forward. Fire on this sire!
Okay, Mechanicum deployment. We have the Iron Strider there, holding the rear side. Troops choice of the Scutari squad there, holding objective building number 1. The Dune Crawler there, along with the Repulsor with the Hell Blasters inside. Got Intercessor squad there, holding this alleyway along with the other Scutari squad. The Tech Priest Dominus in there. And up the front, the Iron Priestess. And some Castellan robots right at the edge of the deployment zone.
This is the Sons of Altarion deployment in this quarter. Closest up here on this edge of the board you have the Captain Gregor Exius, along with the Hellblaster squad and one of the lieutenants. Just off to the side in between the buildings you have the repulsor tank Archaic, which closely behind it is the Dreadnought, Redemption Dreadnought Destor. Up above you have another lieutenant along with the Stalker Bolter squad, the Intercessors. Going around the side of the buildings you also have a second Intercessor squad holding Objective 5 up here. I should point out that first Intercessor squad is holding Objective 4. And down below you have the final Intercessor squad holding Objective, or aiming to go towards Objective 6 by the looks of things, and a Librarian and a Chief of Tilt over here. He's accompanying that squad.
Okay, so we've got 6 objective buildings on the board, and I'll go around them individually. Building number 1, my deployment zone. Building number 2 is this complex here, and the dice for it is just down there. And you're coming round. Building number 3 is this one here. Building number 4 then.
Building number 4 is this one right here.
Yeah.
Building number 5 is the adjacent building connected by walkways. And building number 6 is the building on the other side of the board.
Next to the beer. Nick's going to try and seize the initiative. Let's do it.
That's a no.
Warzone Morloc, Game 2, Turn 1. Let's do it. Okay, Mechanicum and Space Marines Turn 1, movement phase. The Iron Strider has stayed in the rear guard, as have the Scutari and all the troops choices along here. They're staying holding objectives at the moment. The Repulsor tank has moved from the central street around this side. And the Iron Priestess has moved up to take on the Repulsor and the HQ on this side. The Dune Crawler has taken the centre of the board with a long view up the street. And the Castellan robots have moved up to try and secure that building there. The Mechanicum shooting phase, the Dune Crawler managed to cause how many wounds? 3 wounds to the Librarian down the far end. I'm now going to shoot the Avenger Gatling Cannon squad over there.
3+ to hit. With 7 hits, it's 3+ to wound.
Yes! Okay, so armour saves looking for 5s.
One of them lives.
One lives, as is always the way in this bloody Warzone. So, see you later.
Oh.
Boom. Okay, end of the Mechanicum shooting phase. The squad was taken out, apart from one man there, by the Iron Priestess. The rocket pods hit, but somehow the lonely man survived. Then the Repulsor managed to get some shots off at the captain, taking off 4 wounds. But he was tough and he'll be back. Now it's turn 1, Sons of Altarion.
Sons of Altarion movement phase 1. The Vindicare assassin has made his presence felt by appearing in the bottom corner right behind Bill's forces, the Void Stalkers and Mechanicum. He's directly above several of his fairly major characters. The Reavers have also done the same. They've appeared and found themselves just on the top of this building, which is also what contains the first of the objective markers. They're eyeing up the Mechanicum soldiers underneath them. Going further around the board, after a rather devastating first turn for the Hellblaster, it's the last remaining Hellblaster decided to make himself a little bit more scarce and try and get at least into the ruins to get a cover save. The captain showing that he's no braver, frankly, he's run into the cover itself, and the lieutenant's actually within the building itself now. He's just gone the other side of the wall and is remaining there. Everyone's trying to keep an eye on the Iron Priestess. The aggressors have come out. They are about to move their 6 inches. They've disembarked. They haven't actually been moved forward yet, but they will be in just a moment. They're going to be making their way towards the Iron Priestess. The repulsor has stayed where it is. Meanwhile, Brother Destor, the Dreadnought, has moved around the side of the building. He's tucked himself just in the shadows of it there, so he's got eyes on the Dune Stalker further down the board. The Intercessor squad up here are remaining on the objective because I don't see any reason to move them right now. Meanwhile, the Librarian and the final Intercessor squad are holding, having moved across into the other ruined building, and now holding that objective. So the Vindicare Assassin has tried to make a point. He's sent off a single round from his Exodus bolt rifle and has taken a single wound off of the commander of the Mechanicus forces down below. The Reavers, who've also come down, have put a couple of heavy bolt pistol rounds down into the Mechanicus force underneath and taking out 2 of them. Going around to the side, the Iron Priestess, despite how deadly her firepower was last time, has had a lot of stuff thrown at her. The aggressors have taken off a couple of wounds with their Flamestorm cannons. The remaining Hellblaster has taken off a single wound from her as well. Funny enough, the bolt pistol round from the Lieutenant didn't do an awful lot. But the Repulsor has really showed its worth. The Repulsor has put down a hail of fire, including several las cannon rounds, and has taken the Iron Priestess down from 24 rounds down to 10. So a serious bit of damage there, yeah. Has put her into raspberry mode, as we like to call it.
Right, full raspberry.
Full raspberry. Meanwhile, Brother Destor around the corner, having peeked out from the side, has been firing his macro cannon at the Dune Crawler and has taken 2 wounds off of it in the distance. Furthermore, his underslung Onslaught Gatling cannon and his Icarus rocket pod have taken a further 2 wounds of one of the Mechanicum, sorry, what are they called?
The Castellan robots.
Castellan robots, the Mechanicum Castellan robot has taken 2 wounds off one of them as well.
Yeah.
That is the end of the Sons of Altarion shooting phase. The assault phase of the Sons of Altarion, we've so far had 5 aggressors charge the already damaged knight. I'm hoping to punch her to death. We'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, across the board, we have the Reavers having just charged using their grapnel launchers. They managed to get themselves into combat with the 3 remaining Mechanicum troopers over there. Yeah, the Reavers basically took down the basic cogs and gears the Mechanicum troops down there, so those Qatari were completely decimated, and they've done a follow-up move to do a little bit closer to that Intercessor squad. Meanwhile, on this side, where I hope they might just punch to death the Iron Priestess, the aggressors have instead only taken off a single wound. They've received none back in return. End of the Sons of Altarion fight phase.
Intercessor squad's turn to face the Reavers there. The Iron Strider has moved up to try and get a line of sight down the walkway there. They're staying as they are, holding that building. Over here, the Lieutenant and the Hellblasters have got out the Repulsor and are getting ready to attack the squad in building number 3. And the Repulsor tank has moved into the central walkway. Over here, the Dune Crawler has moved up and the Castellan robots are heading for the Dreadnought. Just in addition to the movement phase, the Knight has stepped over the aggressors there and is looking menacingly towards the Repulsor. Phase turn 2. Intercessor squad took out 1 Reaver and wounded another. There's no change over here. The Hellblaster squad absolutely murderized the aggressor squad that was in front of it, leaving 1 alive. And
however, the remaining Lieutenant and the Mechanicum Warlords, sorry, what's it called, a war boss or what on earth is he? Some kind of tech breach. No one else actually managed to hurt the remaining aggressor. He stands firm.
Stands firm. The Iron Priestess stood over the aggressors and gave as much of its shots as it could to the Repulsor. How much damage did it do to the Repulsor? It took off 2 wounds, so not great there, but sizing up a lovely assault in the future turn. Over here, the Dune Crawler has put some death pain towards the Dreadnought over there, which took out how many wounds?
The Dreadnought suffered about 5 wounds. Suffered 4 wounds.
5 wounds. That was also helped by the Castellan robots, who gave a little bit of phosphor blast of fire there. So let's see what happens in the fight phase. Okay, Mechanicum and Void Stalkers fight phase turn 2. The Intercessor squad managed to kill one more Reaver and take another wound off the guy there. Over here, the Tech Priest Dominus charged in, didn't do a lot of damage, but the Hell Blasters followed in behind and took off one wound from the aggressor. The Lieutenant failed to achieve his charge distance, so he having to stay there. And we're going to join the fight over here, where the Iron Priestess is charged straight into the face of the repulsor. So that will be, I believe, 5 attacks.
So right now.
Okay, this is for the Thunderstrike Gauntlet to punch the repulsor.
4 losses to hit.
Yeah, 3.
Oh, dear, that's not good.
Yeah,
2 losses to wound.
2 the more.
Nice.
Command point in 1.
Are you really?
No!
Only 1 wound.
Treacherous dice.
In the Mechanicum and Void Stalkers fight phase, the Sons of Altarion are fighting back. The tank has actually tried to bash its way into the legs of the Iron Priestess, but done absolutely nothing in the process, unfortunately. The aggressors managed to punch one of the Hell Blasters to death, which is always a small victory considering he's not doing too well for himself right now. And finally, in the far corner where the Reavers are fighting the Intercessors, the Reavers have managed to take a single wound of one of the Intercessor squad. That's the end of this turn, and I believe the start of Sons of Altarion turn 2. With a resounding crash, the Inceptors have landed hard on the rooftop there.
10 points for getting the name right. Good work.
Exactly. It had to take me a minute there. It was pretty close. Reaver's obviously staying locked in combat for the time being. The Vindicator is staying right where he is. He's quite happy to take up the pot shots from the roof up there. Meanwhile, as we come around, the Captain, Gregor Exius, the Lieutenant and the Hellblaster have all moved up to get a little bit closer to the combat that was going on. Meanwhile, the aggressor has actually withdrawn from the combat. But using the Ultramarine special rule, I intend to be able to fire back into the people who charged him. Meanwhile, the repulse tank has reversed at its highest possible gear away from the Iron Priestess. Doesn't want to be anywhere near that. On the roof, one Intercessor squad with the Stalker bolters are staying exactly where they are. However, the Intercessor squad, which were guarding the other building, have now broken from cover. They're still holding the building, but they want to take a few pot shots as well. Finally, round the corner in the final building, where where Objective 6 is actually located, the Librarian and the other 5-man Intercessor squad are now holding the building, have pushed into the windows, and are hoping to take some shots from there onto the psychic phase, Sons of Altarion turn 2. Librarian Tellus has gazed out of the window, urged up Smite from his mind, and destroyed a Castellan robot that was just across the way.
Epic.
Shooting phase of the Sons of Altarion, my hopes have been dashed of a quick destruction of the Iron Priestess. Despite all its weapons firing, the Ion Shield has deflected nearly everything, so only 3 wounds have been dealt to the Priestess, bringing her back down to 7 wounds. Now we're going to see what the Dreadnought can do. 6 shots. That's what I want to see.
No way.
3 losses to hit.
Using the command stratagem, boosting the Iron Shield to 4+. You get some invulnerable saves. That's how we do it.
The Inceptors have fired across at their mechanical counterparts, have wiped 3 of the squad off of the rooftop opposite. However, a few still remain cowering in cover, and they may cause a problem to me, as this is the building with Objective 1 on it. The Vindicator Assassin has fired across at the Lieutenant. However, unfortunately, the Lieutenant's managed to roll a magnificent save, and the bullet seems to have been deflected off of his armour, which is not very impressive. Several Intercessor squads over here have all been pouring fire down. 2 squads have been up here, and a 3rd squad has been sitting in the ruins of the building over here. All of them have been pouring fire down onto the Contempt Dreadnoughts after the psychic phase has actually helped destroy one of them. Not the Contempt Dreadnoughts, I do apologise. The Castellans, and he's been reduced to just 2 wounds by their fire. Over in the corner, a fairly decent amount of fire has come out of each of the units here and has poured into the Hellblasters. 1 Hellblaster remains from the Void Stalkers. Meanwhile, the Dreadnought has done pretty much nothing. Unfortunately, his rounds were completely and utterly deflected from the Iron Priestess. the repulsor to, in fact, the Iron Priestess only actually suffered 3 wounds from the absolute storm of las cannon, macro cannon fire they put out. That is the end of the Sons of Altarion shooting phase 2, onto the fight phase. Captain Gregor Exius and his loyal lieutenant have both managed to make their charge and have charged into a joint combat with the Tech Magos and the last remaining Cold Blaster. Meanwhile, amazingly, the Brother Destor, the Dreadnought, has made his charge range with the help of the command point, and despite a Halo Overwatch fire which has still inflicted a wound on him, he has miraculously made it to the Iron Priestess, so I'm expecting that to be a fantastic combat. Right, Brother Destor, the Dreadnought, is so badly damaged with only 2 wounds remaining. It's 5+ to hit with his 4 attacks.
Let's see it.
It needs some 5+s. Yes, 2 in there. To wound.
5+ invulnerable save. Not made. See how much damage?
6 wounds.
2 wounds.
The rest of the assault phase has had very little happen in it. No one's managed to gain any ground here, really. The Tech Priest has suffered 3 wounds rather, but he's still standing just fine. Everyone else remains the same in this particular combat. Over in the distance between the Reavers and the Intercessors, some amazing dice rolling eventually meant that not a single wound was dealt on either side. That is a lot to combat. End of Sons of Altarion phase 2.
Okay, Void Stalkers and Mechanicum movement turn 3. The Intercessors broke off combat with the Reavers and ran for their cowardly lives into the building to hopefully secure it as an objective. Hopefully out of line of sight from the assassin who's up there. The repulsor withdrew from the alleyway and is now bearing down on the Inceptors up there. The Iron Strider charged forwards and is now up in the grill of the Reavers. Over on this side, the Iron Priestess has done a 180 and is going to be giving it large to the remaining Sons of Altarion over here. Over on this side, the Dune Crawler managed to get an angle through the alleyway, and also the remaining Castellan robot is bearing down on the Dreadnought. See what happens in the shooting phase. Turn 3. Just before we go into the update, I'll just show you that the 2 remaining Skitarii Vanguard bottled it and ran for their lives and died. So over here, the Iron Strider took out 2 of the Reavers. He's shooting over there. The Repulsor pulled back and shot up to the Inceptors and took out one of the guys up there. Coming around the corner, the Iron Priestess, in her terrible, broken down state, did absolutely nothing really.
I think she finally managed to squash the last aggressor.
Oh, that's right, yeah. She took out the last aggressor.
After a lot of fire went his way.
Miserable life. And then round this side, the Dune Crawler managed to take out the Dreadnought with its eradication beam, which I was very happy with.
Pretty effective shoot phase.
So that's it for my shooting phase. On to the fight phase.
The combat seems to be locked between the Iron Strider and the Reaver. Over towards the Iron Priestess, she's managed to do very little actually. She didn't actually manage to kill off anyone from that battle. However, the Magus did manage to wipe out finally the Lieutenant, unfortunately. In return, the Captain Gregor Exius of the Sons of Altarion managed to cut up the Magus and has finished him off, so he's dead.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And I believe that's it for the close combat phase, so we'll be now on to Sons of Altarion turn 3. Sons of Altarion movement phase, the Inceptors have moved into the building to try and avoid the same fate as their colleague who got vaporised by a las cannon. The Reaver has also broken away from combat from the Iron Strider, who's tucked into the building just in here. Meanwhile, on top of this building, the Vindicator Assassin has got himself into a better position, so he might be able to take a better pot shot at some of the mechanical units in the distance over there. By the Iron Priestess, both my captain and the remaining man next to him have both disengaged from combat in the hope that the repulsor, which is also backed away a short distance away, might be able to take some pot shots at it now that they're out of combat. Apart from that, a few of the Inceptors have moved around just to adjust themselves, to take some pot shots at the enemy below, but that is it. That's the end of the movement phase. On the shooting phase, Sons of Altarion turn 3. a large amount of fire was poured into one of the Castellan dreads over in the corner. However, a lot of it didn't do anything right until the Vindicare assassin managed to put a bullet across the map, and his round managed to finally finish off the final Castellan dreadnought. It was fantastic.
Boom, gone.
It was awesome. Unfortunately, the repulsor failed miserably once again to finish off the Iron Priestess, despite levelling its las cannons. Unfortunately, being the fact that it's rather damaged, it's got targeting systems are rather off. That's what we're saying anyway.
And out of range.
And out of range. Well, that's not to say that. It was in range for at least the las cannon. Shame about the Crackstorm grenade launchers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Captain Gregor Rexius down here next to the Iron Priestess has used his Boltstorm Gauntlet and finished off the final Hell Blaster. Over on the other side, we've got the Inceptors have let loose with their Assault Bolters, and they've managed to finish off just one of the Interceptor squad on the opposing building. And that's been pretty much it. The Reaver has not been able to fire, so that's going to be the end of the shooting phase. Onto any combat, but it's going to be pretty limited. Contrary to my last hopeful statements, there is going to be no attacking phase this turn, as the only men who are in remote range of the Iron Priestess have broken away from combat last turn, so they can't do it. So there's the end of the Sons of Altarion phase, turn 3, onto Voidstalkers and Mechanicum, turn 4.
Mechanicum and Voidstalkers movement turn 4. The repulsors pushed up to try and get some sort of view on the Inceptors there. The Iron Striders moved in to contest the objective on building number 2. The Inceptors are still on building number 1 with a view of trying to shoot a few shots off there. Around this side, Iron Priestess has stepped forward into the building to face off against the Captain. And my Lieutenant stepped through the door on the far side to try and do some damage as well. And lastly, the Dunecrawler has turned to face the remaining threats in buildings 1 and 2 to try and do some damage. The assassin finally got taken out by some heavy fire from the Dunecrawler and the Iron Strider. The 2 Inceptors got taken out by the repulsor tank finally. Unfortunately, there is a guy tucked down there contesting that objective. But I remain in control of building number 1. And lastly over here, the repulsor did very little, the Knight did very little against the Captain, and neither did the Lieutenant, so hopefully they can clean up in the assault phase. Fight phase, Mechanicum turn 4. It got messy. The Knight tried to use Titanic Feet on the Captain and the Hell Blaster to no effect. Absolutely useless. But in return, she got punched so hard, she got taken down to 1 wound remaining. The Captain has 1 wound remaining. And there's a lonely Hell Blaster and Lieutenant fighting as proxies on either side. And that was all the combat that's occurred. So now it's over to Sons of Altarion turn 4.
Sons of Altarion movement phase is very, very brief. The repulsor is edged forward just so it can try and get some last final pot shots at the Iron Priestess. Meanwhile, the Captain and the remaining Hell Blaster have both broken off from cover from the Iron Priestess just to try and put some final shots into her. That is pretty much it, apart from 2 intercessors vaguely emerging from one of the buildings in the far left-hand corner of the board. That is it, straight under the shooting phase. This has been the most depressing shooting phase I think I've ever had. The repulsor finally got some las cannons on target, and Bill's managed to roll 2 6s on his Iron Shield that have saved the Iron Priestess on 1 wound.
She lives!
Everything has shot the Iron Priestess, and it has saved it time and time again. She
Double
lives
hard.
From 24 wounds down to 1 wound, and she will not die. I am appalled. Meanwhile, all the other people who could have fired the intercessor rare units on both sides and both buildings have let loose. Mostly having fired the Magus Domini, I believe it's called, in the centre of the board.
The Datasmith.
The Datasmith next to the Dune Walker, and have caused him 1 wound. And that has been the entire effect of my entire army shooting. Has been 1 wound on the Datasmith.
And there's no assault phase because there's nothing that can assault because they broke off from combat over there. So off to turn 5, Mechanicum and Voidstalkers. Mechanicum and Voidstalker's movement turn 5, the Repulsor has moved to get a line of sight on the last remaining Reaver, who's tucked himself cowardly in a corner over there. So hopefully that'll be the end of him. They've remained on scene, holding building number 1. Over here, the Dune Crawler has moved to get a firing solution on the Repulsor through the archway. In there. And lastly, the Knight has remained where she is, ready to try and finish off the Captain. Brutal, amazing things happened. The Repulsor managed finally to chew through the last remaining Reaver. Not through las cannons, not through Gatling guns, not even through crack storms, but the stupid Stormbolter at the back finished the last remaining man off. Which means building 2 is firmly in Mechanicum control. Shooting around here. The Knight, Iron Priestess, finally, with her lovely Gatling gun, took out the Captain in a glorious spray of badly aimed bullets.
Leaving that building also uncontested.
Leaving building 3 is secure with the Mechanicum. And over here, the Dune Crawler managed to fire its eradication beamer and mullered the already crippled Repulsor. So, all in all, a very successful shooting phase.
There is not going to be.
And there'll be no assault phase because there's nothing in range. So, that'll be it for my all my turns. And lastly, turn 5 for the Sons.
Another fantastic shooting phase from the Sons of Altarion and a psychic phase. There was no movement, there was no movement left to do. This was my final phase and I needed to hold my objectives. A storm of bolter fire did absolutely nothing to the Data Smith. Meanwhile, my librarian managed to strip 2 wounds off him, but somehow he kept his final wounds and the Data Smith lived. That is the end. There will be no assaults at this point. So at this stage, at the end of the game, all of the objectives still held. The Sons of Altarion hold objectives 4, Objective 5 and Objective 6. Meanwhile, around the other side of the table, the Mechanicum and the Voidstalkers quite easily hold Objective 2, Objective 1 and Objective 3. That's 3 victory points each, which leaves us entirely in a massive stalemate. So at the end of this game, it is 3 victory points each and a very hard war-fought draw between the Sons of Altarion and the Voidstalkers and the Mechanicum.
This is the Iron Priestess. Stand down. There's nothing left for us here. House Morloc suspects nothing, Master. All goes according to plan.